Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Fast Track Your Masters with Credit, an info session presented by IT Masters on behalf of Charles Sturt University. Hope you're safe and well wherever you're listening. We have Nikita and Hannah supporting us in Q&A and the chat. And I invite you to set all of your chat messages to all panelists and attendees. This session will be mostly delivered by Chantal and me. Chantal is the CEO of IT Masters, and I'm sure you're familiar with her pestering you with those emails with the updates. Lots of pithy one-liners and wonderful links to go and look at further information.
But I definitely wrote all of them.
Oh, yes. And so well. I'm the short course MC and used to work a lot in the credit space. And I'm very grateful for Chantal for keeping me around so that I can keep on pestering you all from afar. Nikita is the new credit guru and will be no doubt chatting with some of you soon as you find out how to submit all of your information. And Hannah is the one that makes all of these webinars work in the short courses and all of the marketing stuff. And is pretty much just a jack of all trades. So thanks for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to chuck them in as we go, and we'll get to them if they're relevant, or hold them to the end if they're not. And if there's anything you'd like particularly out of tonight's session, let us know in the chat, whether it's just the hard details or whether you sort of want to know what the emotional journey is like as you sort of consider moving into postgrad study. So with that in mind, let's get going. We'll chat about what studying with us is about, IT Masters and Charles Sturt University, how that relationship works, how it started. We'll talk about the value of a master's, and I think that's the hardest question to answer because it's such a subjective one. And then we'll talk about the real nitty-gritty details once the decision has been made. Or sort of you're a long way along the emotional process of sort of making the decision, because I really do hold it's the emotional one that is relevant in making the decision. Let's make it easy in terms of the details and make sure we can, I guess, fast track you as this session suggests. And then we'll give you some helpful advice as to what to do next and answer any questions.
Great, sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit there.
No worries.
We'll get there. I thought we'd kick off tonight just talking about why you might want to study with IT Masters and Charles Sturt University. So we've been teaching online since 2002, when teaching online was a very different game, but we've moved along with the game. And we've got a lot of experience in the online education space. All of the classes and exams that you'd study would be taught online, and you're not expected to attend campus ever. You can for graduation and special events, but it's not necessary, which has the added ability that you can study anywhere, which is very nice. All of the subjects have online study materials, and you can see an example there on the side of the screen. And that just means that you've got weekly materials like textbook readings or journal articles, but also hands-on activities and labs or audio and video lectures, so that you can really immerse yourself, and we try to cater to all learning styles with our materials. And then we also have weekly online webinars each week where you can ask your mentor questions and learn with your peers. And you find really good examples of those on our online free short courses. Those are obviously larger in scale. We don't have many that have 1,000 students in it, but it's a really good example of how we teach and the sort of access you'd have to your mentors. Because all of our mentors are working professionals, IT Masters do take a lot of the admin work. So what that means is that you can always call us up and speak to a person, or send an email and get a response quickly from someone who might know your situation better than in the larger, emails that you email at a university for. Even for the CSU subjects, and we'll talk a little bit later about how the courses are broken up into CSU and IT Masters subjects, students often still contact IT Masters because they know if they call us up, they'll speak to somebody who has knowledge about their situation and can help them out right then and there. And people do tend to find that they really enjoy being able to speak to a person immediately, even if it's not necessarily their mentor, because they're all working, day jobs in the in the field that they're teaching in. And we'll pass on to Guy a little bit to talk a little bit about the value of a master's.
Thanks, Shani. Well, it's a tough one to answer, and it sort of depends on you. There's one person in the chat, I've been having a look at their comments, Regan, who's got heaps of experience, doesn't have an issue in getting a job. So therefore you might sort of say, well, why should I do it? And I guess the answer I have is I hope always that there's an underpinning, it's its own reward. It's something that you're keen on, something that you love talking and, you know, thinking about, and something that you'll enjoy speaking with a nice network of people, you know, in a pretty safe place. For those that are sort of less, I guess, along the path, less entrenched in the industry, because a long time ago, you just didn't need a master's to get into the industry. It was just sort of like, well, you'd lump in and then you work your way up, or it was just such a new technology that you know, it hadn't even been formalized. But now that it has been, and it's a fairly mature space, the reality is a master's, or indeed any tertiary education in the space, is almost necessary to get your first job if you're looking at transitioning your career or starting a career. And if you're looking at progressing your career, it's a one way of I guess, really accelerating that process, particularly if you're looking at getting a job at a different employer. It's maybe a little bit more easy to sort of develop from within, but if you reach that ceiling at the place, well, yeah, you sort of, you might need to study to go further. So career progression is probably the big one we'll be talking about tonight, because a lot of the jobs that you see out there, particularly in the cyberspace, you know, where it's a really competitive field, like, yes, there's a shortage, but there's also no shortage of applicants. You're going to need to clear the first hurdle. And that means when it comes to applying for a job, they're going to get two piles: those that have postgraduate study at a sort of reasonable job level, and those that don't, and they'll just go get rid of all of them. So that's the first step, and then they start making the considerations. Sad but true, probably a bunch of wasted talent in there, but it's just the reality of the situation. So from that, like, I guess, very, I guess, transactional perspective, it's a very important reason why a lot of people do the masters. Multiple qualifications is a really good one because you can diversify, and that's going to be super important for people who are like stuck in one, or not stuck, but you have sort of specialized in one particular area. You can then sort of talk about maybe tailoring your study program to a smaller course, like a graduate certificate, where you can build specific skills, fill specific gaps in knowledge, and, you know, then just retool for the sort of new job that you want to go. The one I'm thinking of is virtualization. As cloud computing just explodes, there's all of these new services for employees, or sorry, for organizations to manage either for other organizations or for their own organization. It's just it's burgeoning, and that's where a lot of the really exciting stuff is. And then, of course, you know, cyber, for people that have been involved in computing broadly. Security has always been like just a really important element of it, and now, you know, it's like in the last, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 years, it's just been like a specific job role. It's just all pervasive now, and most of our students are in cybersecurity. So you can just retool and go for the either diversification or jumping into a new role. And then, of course, just the return on investment. There was someone in the chat, sorry, I can't remember your name, but they were just saying, what's the benefit, cost benefit? There is data that we always show in a lot of like our marketing webinars that just shows that there's sort of a 10 to 15% increase in wages once you get a postgraduate qualification. And I know there's a lot of issues with like correcting for the type of people that get the masters, the type of jobs that people in masters are, but there's at least a correlation. So a return on investment, the ability to go and chase the jobs that you want to do, the ability to sort of have a bit of fun. It's all there. It's just a question of what is most important for you, and then we tailor the program to it.
Great, sorry, just trying to unmute myself. Yes, and we'll get to some of these questions as they go on later, but I do think that confidence there is a really key one. I've found sometimes just having a qualification can help you answer the questions in a workplace and know that you've got the knowledge to back it up. And people will listen to you a lot of the time anyway, but this is a way that you can get you can get yourself to believe in what you're saying. Moving on just a little bit into the pathways of study here. So the most IT Masters courses, and you can see here, we've got several different areas of study. Most of them start with a graduate certificate, which is 4 subjects in a chosen field or topic. And you can enter a graduate certificate with just relevant work experience. So you don't need to have any undergrad or anything like that. So when you complete the graduate certificate, you can move into the master's degree. That's the 12 subjects. By completing 8 further subjects, you can have that qualification. And so once you have completed both, you'll have 2 qualifications for the price of 1, basically. And it means that if you don't have the degree behind it, if you don't have a relevant degree, you can enter into these courses without losing any extra time, etc. And once you enter into that master's degree, and we'll let you know, or I can answer the question here. Somebody is saying, what is the alumni discount for grad cert to masters? It's 10%. So once you complete your grad cert, you get 10% off the cost of the remaining 8 subjects. I'll just say that I've answered that one. So yes, this is our general pathway to the degree. You can jump into the masters if you'd like, but we found with the alumni discount, it's worth it to start with the grad cert. And moving on to credit options, which I'm sure is one of the key reasons a lot of people are here.
Yes, no doubt. I'll just quickly get to Hassan's questions. We don't have the Commonwealth supported places anymore. That's right, isn't it?
We had them this year. We're hoping for more of them next year, but the government has not given us a confirmation of that. If they've given other universities a confirmation, I mean, we've chased after them, we've requested them, but there's only so much we can do. We just wait for the government to say, yes, we've got them. We've got those places. We're hoping for more next year.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I suppose it leads to an important follow-up question as to why to study a master's in general. The next question is why to study with us. And I like to think that the next few slides will answer that. But on top of what I know we've got, I also just think that we've got a very good standing in the industry. We understand where it's been and where it's going to a large extent, I think, and work to make sure that we hire mentors on the IT master side of things to make sure we keep abreast of that. And that will, I think, flow through to other things, whether it is the ADF GAP program that has been getting a bit of a working over in the chat as well, and all sorts of other industry, I guess, areas where it might be relevant. But we'll get into the credit, which is one of the really attractive reasons why you would work with us and where I think our industry knowledge is manifested. We keep abreast of what's going on in that terrible, horrifying, wonderful space of industry certifications, and are therefore able to ensure that students, to the greatest possible extent, are not forced to learn things that they already know. So with that in mind, we try and assess as many industry certifications as they change, when they change, and then keep people abreast of those changes so that we can say, well, you can do this now. You can, if you've got a new AWS certification or a new CCNA or even the old CCNA, we'll tell you how it will work in terms of credit and can sort of fit that and feed that into your study plan. So there's 4 ways you can get it, get credit, that is, and up to 50% of a course can be awarded as credit, which is really, I think, valuable, particularly for, like, it's monetarily really valuable anyway, but really valuable in terms of time for people interested in doing just the reskilling, grad cert. You can just do 2 subjects, get 2 subject credit, and off you go. Start applying straight away. So there are 4 ways: industry certifications, university study. We will award recognition of your prior learning if you've started at RMIT or La Trobe, for example, Hassan, and the subjects are relevant, there's enough crossover, we can absolutely award recognition for that, so you don't lose anything in sort of, or as much as possible, you sort of don't have to pay the transaction cost of changing. ACS certification, again, sort of getting fingers in all of the pies, we can award credit now just for your experience, and of course the free short courses, which you should all go to anyway. These wonderful extra resources and things that I really love doing here.
And there is one of the answers to Hassan's question there is, how many subjects exemptions can I get? So it's government regulations, you can't get more than 50% of a course as credit. So you have to complete at least 50% of the course. So that would be for a master's 6 subjects, for a grad cert 2 subjects.
Right, yeah, so let's go and look at some of the industry certifications. That's a trigger warnings. All right, so there's lots out there, and they're all great in their own special ways, and a lot of them will award credit. Let's just chuck in the chat, anyone got any certifications that they already have that they're interested in? Yes, so many, says Andrew Robertson. Oh, chuck them in there and we'll have a look. So if they're very old, sometimes we can even then still award credit if we can sort of prove a direct lineage back to from when you did it to what it has become, if it still awards credit, and if we can prove that you're working in the same space. The one I'm thinking is the older CCNAs are often awarded as credit now, just because you've been working in the same space. But they're all there: CompTIA, Security Plus, or indeed some of the more advanced ones. CISP, ISC squared in general have a lot of certifications, and they're really great. And I'm terribly sorry, I can't figure out how to mute me Slack. So yeah, and also if you've got ones that aren't on our approved list, just plug it in anyway, and we'll do a little sort of triage, and if we think it's worth following up, we'll get to it. Particularly if it's something that's sort of new and exciting, we'd love to have a chat with people and figure out, what's going on in it. The one I'm thinking of is the offensive cybersecurity certifications. They're really great and exciting. We've got Chris from Andrew McAuliffe. That's a credit. ITIL. Depending on how you gear the ITIL, there's this foundation and there's the expert, and if you team it with various ones. SANS courses from Darren. Yes, there's a lot of SANS courses that award credit. So they're we'll shake it out, and we'll send you to the links that you can actually get Nikita to talk through it, and you'll get a nice fancy email. But essentially, all of these ones, there's absolutely potential for credit, particularly in the cybersecurity courses. But it's just a really nice, easy way to expedite the process of getting an industry, a tertiary qualification. And it's very useful, I think, to combine industry certification and tertiary education. The two together will mean you won't be able to be just sorted out of any sort of job application piles. They'll have to give you due consideration, and then it's once you're in, no doubt you'll charm them with your wonderful talent and personality. So definitely not an either or. It's an advantage to have both, I think. And they do different things. Some of our subjects are actually tied specifically to certifications, and that's why you get the credit. But there's so much more. It's about different applications and how to break things, which certification to use when. Those are the sorts of things you'll learn in some of the subjects.
And somebody also asked, should I defer study and then get my certification and then come back? But don't forget, you can apply for credit at literally any stage of your master's course or your grad cert. So you can just wait until, further into your degree, till you find the right subjects for you to do, et cetera, and then apply for the credit later on.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have a chat like that. I think like a lot of universities do roughly or hopefully less well similar things to what we do. But I think where the real value is why to go with IT Masters if you're convinced that studying is a good idea is our ability to sort of take your plans and what your hopes are outside of the course and make sure that you have a study plan, congruent with that. So certain subjects will be available at a certain time. You might have a certain sort of sensible progression of skills that you want to acquire. And that might mean you do like a cybersecurity fundamental subject in your first subject space. Then you might have a leave of absence and sort of like do a certification, which will give you the second string to the bow, give you a credit for a different subject, and then might be a perfect launchpad to a more advanced sort of cybersecurity subject. Like that's the sort of thing that we can talk about and like sequence so that you have like a really clear plan. Like in 1 year, I am going to turn my graduate certificate into the confidence that I need to apply for jobs, or the confidence I need to sort of say I'm ready to lead the next project or be the next, client manager, whatever it is. We can sort of make a really nice, clear goal and then sort of help you through the process, and then, build it on that once you've actually achieved the goal. Like say, once you've done the grad cert, then come back and do the rest of the masters, whatever it is. Yeah, that's I think the key takeaway for me for the whole of the night, just like our ability to tailor the program to your needs and objectives.
Great. And we'll move on to the next form of credit.
Pretty short courses. Oh, this is the easy one. They're great and fun, and you should come and join me as I talk absolute rubbish for 4 weeks with someone who is actually trained in the field as they describe a particular element of the short courses. We've got them in all of our course areas, whether it's project management, broadly IT project management with a computing focus, or just like cloud computing, networking, cybersecurity. There's heaps of good ones. We're going through the process of updating a few of them, but even the old ones just have nuggets of amazing information, and the mentors in these short courses are so generous with their time. It's a lovely place, and if you do 3 of them, you can get a credit. It's great. You'd be mad not to.
Great.
Has anyone done them from the chat?
I think people do know your name. I saw a few people, noticing you. So
Yeah. Well, what do you get out of it? Like I can wax lyrical, but what do you get out of them?
Before we wax lyrical, I will just answer Darren's question of, can you do 6 of them for 2 credits? No, that's not allowed. You can only get 1 short course credit.
If only, Darren. Geez, I'd have so many masters. But yeah, it's a great program. Let's go look at the next one. That one's a no-brainer. This is good. This was something that we had to fight for a long time, trying to award people credit for their experience, because people like Regan, who have been in the field for decades, just had no ability to then be rewarded for that and are forced to do subjects like computer networking fundamentals. It's just not worth it. So ACS, I suppose you could say Australia's peak IT industry body, and if you go through the process of becoming a member with them and getting them to sort of rate your professional experience, then once it reaches certain thresholds, we can award credit for whatever threshold you reach. And I think most of the people listening along here would at least be able to, like if you've got, let's say 5 years, it's a pretty broad rule of thumb that I'm utilizing here, but if you've got 5 years experience, you're likely going to get at least 1 credit. If you've got 10 years credit, I'd be surprised if you didn't get 2 for the far more nuanced take. Look at the link that Hannah just put in the chat, but it's a really easy and obvious way to fast track the masters. So go and have a look at it. Yeah, any field, it's really a good option. Yeah, the process is, so once you get in touch with ACS, they will do like instead of like plugging things in, it's a nice sit-down interview or Zoom interview, and they sort of ask you really interesting questions and you swap stories. It's just like chatting with a mate, and then at the end of it, say, yeah, I get it. You are a certified technologist or a certified practitioner, and then you can bring that back to us, having had a lovely time, and say, yeah, you were right. Here's another 2 credits. See ya. That's exactly how it'll go, by the way.
Yeah, it's definitely going to go like that, I think. Yes, somebody was asking, since if a credit wasn't applied for the grad cert, can it be applied for the masters? Yes, absolutely. However, you can't get a short course credit for the grad cert and then another one for the masters. Just keeping replying that one so that we don't mislead anybody.
Yeah, they've all got their specific codes so that we don't double up and stuff people around later. The worst thing is to think you've got, 1 subject left in the masters and you've actually got 2 or 3, and it's just like, oh, I'm not sure I can saddle up.
Yeah, and somebody had said, I maxed out the grad cert credits. Absolutely, you can apply more credits for your masters, because we wouldn't want you to do the grad cert, get 2 credits for that, and that's all the credits you can get. There's still another 4 credits available to you.
Yeah, at great risk of being a broken record, another wonderful option for those sort of jumping into the IT field. Start with a grad cert, get a foot in the door, build some experience, then go and get an ACS membership and practitioner
get that
level
credit there. Yeah,
do your 3 short courses, and you got another 4 credits up your sleeve just as you jump into the next phase of the tertiary journey, which nests within it. So yeah, it's a really common way of doing things. Oh yeah, and if you studied at uni, we'll chat with them, make sure that the subject's up to our very high standards, and assuming it is, yeah, no worries. We've got a fairly significant database we can access through CSU, with competitors offerings. So yeah, there's no worries. And I'm sure others would work the other way too. If you've done all the subjects that you want to do with us, you can probably go elsewhere and no doubt get credit for them.
Yeah, so that 80% content overlap, it kind of has to cover 80% of the same learning outcomes, just to make sure that it's fair, that you get what you need to out of your degree.
Yeah, it's tied back to our learning outcomes, isn't it, Chantal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's assessed by the course director. But if you need more information with that, and this is a total broken record, but contact Nikita with our Am I Eligible field, form, sorry, and she'll be able to give you a lot more information. So I touched a little bit on this earlier, but our masters and our grad certs are broken into what we call academic subjects and industry subjects. And the idea being that we want to give you a qualification that is real world relevant, while at the same time gives you that academic grounding that you need to understand a lot of things behind the scenes. So the academic subjects are created and taught by CSU academics. And with those, we're aiming to, like I said, give you that academic understanding of concepts, etc. They can be technical and hands-on, but they're generally just a bit more theoretical than our industry subjects. So these industry subjects are written and delivered by our IT Masters mentors, with industry professionals leading them. So all of our mentors work within the fields they teach, so that they can give you that real understanding of what you would actually do if you were, working in incident response or hacking or something like that, just to understand how the real world treats these topics. So they're often really based on industry certifications, like we were talking about earlier with the credits, so CISSP or the Certified Ethical Hacker. And the main aim of these subjects is to tie that academic knowledge that you received into real world practice and to learn how to apply this knowledge. And so you'll have most of your teachers who work full time, but then teach, one evening a week, just to give back to the IT community, obviously, often is their main reason for doing so. So you can see that's the grad cert in cybersecurity there, and you can see it's broken into, you choose 2 subjects from the top list of those academic subjects, and then 2 subjects from the bottom list of those industry subjects. And we keep an eye on making sure that you've got the right number of electives from each area if you're ready to jump into these courses. Because as Guy said earlier, there's nothing worse than thinking you're nearly finished and then having an extra subject to do. And next up, we've got fee help. So all of our courses can be, you can use fee help to pay for them. You've probably heard of it if you're an Australian citizen. It allows you to defer part or all of your course fees, and you only start repayments when you earn above the threshold set by the government, and it lets you repay your loan through the taxation system. So you can pay all your subject fees up front, which is generally only something people do if their work is paying for it. You could pay some up front and use a fee help loan for the rest, or you could use fee help for all of your tuition fees. And it does mean that if you're not earning over that threshold, you're not paying it back. It's fine. That's the government's problem. And again, just reiterating that credit can be applied at any point during your studies. So if you wanted to get started now and then apply credit, you could, study 6 subjects in your master's and then apply all the credit at once and just finish within 3 sessions or a year. And then last but not least, what happens next?
Well, apart from everyone applying right now for a graduate certificate.
Yeah, immediately.
Actually, yeah.
Or filling out that eligibility form and getting contacted by Nikki, who will tell you what credit could be available for you and what your steps should be. Sorry, yeah. Guy, what were you saying?
Oh, no, just we'll chuck a link to if you're convinced and ready to go. Don't see why we should stop anyone. Just go and apply straight away if we can get a link in the chat there. But if you'd like to have a more in-depth chat about it, yeah, absolutely. Have a chat with Nikki. That's so good. Is there any sort of questions that you have about these details or about any other details you would like? We'll sort of hold them open and we'll have a nice little chat about them in the Q&A now.
Yeah, somebody's saying, if I don't take any credits for the grad cert, can I apply for 6 in the future if I am undertaking the master's? I'm pretty sure you can, because if they're part of what's called an articulated set. So you complete those 4 subjects and then you move into the master's, and it's like you've studied those 4 subjects as part of your master's. But you should speak to Nikki or somebody from our team before you do that, because certain forms of credit will only get you certain types of credit. And you want to make sure that you don't come in and say, yes, I'm eligible for all these credits, but it turns out because they're all industry, it doesn't really apply.
Yeah, and for context, some of the ways in which people would be doing a grad cert and not be in their best interests to apply for credit would be if their workplace is happy to pay for a grad cert but not a master's. Often, I think not just big police, but most police forces in Australia only want to let people do grad certs because once they do a master's, it's like you're a threat to leave and move on to bigger, brighter things, for example. Or if you get into one of the government programs that's trying to fill out the cybersecurity gaps, then yeah, there's no point getting the credit there. So yeah, it's a great way to hold it over.
Yeah, and if you have any questions at all, please contact us before you make your decisions on how to do things, because we'd much prefer to spend 2 minutes, answering a question rather than it becoming a headache later down the line.
Yeah, get on the front foot. Let's plan it together, and that way we can keep each other accountable. It's really fun watching people work through it and sort of, I guess, trying to get to understand why people are doing the course in the first place. It's really useful for future people. So everything we can learn is really good.
And somebody's asking, can you get credit towards a master's for a previous grad cert from another uni and do 3 short courses giving 5 credits? You can. The big question there is making sure that there is enough overlap with the subjects from the previous grad cert in order to get the 4 subjects credit there. But yes, that should be fine, probably. But again, check with eligibility and we'll let you know.
Yeah, the good rule of thumb is if you are eligible for the credit in any like in any one way. Like it'll always be there. It's like subject to the limit of that number of credits, like that type or whatever it is. Like there's no sort of correct way or best way to build your 6 credits or however many credits you end up being eligible for. It's just let's get you there.
And if you speak to us before you make any decisions, we really want you to get as much credit as possible, because, you know, we don't want you to waste your time if you are eligible to credit.
Yeah. Although ideally the education would be free and you'd be doing it for your own purposes and everything would be lovely and we'd all hold hands and sing together and have a lovely time in class. I hope that was Darren's experience.
Hopefully.
So no other questions? We've got some stories. Tony was saying he's planning to do a master's, just completed the grad cert. Congratulations, Tony. Thought I recognized the names. When should you start the process for applying? It's actually really simple. Like, fun fact, universities are desperate for students. Like so clamoring. The power is in your court, students or potential students, or is in your hands. You make the most of it. So just identify the subjects that you're most interested in, I think, and then apply for the first available, like as
well, you can apply for the first available, but if you were looking to do the Masters in June 2022, there is a July intake for the Masters that might align there. I think you can apply now. I'm not sure if that application is open yet, but I'm pretty sure the main sessions there are open now.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And somebody was saying they completed the IT Masters eligibility assessment and received confirmation about a subject's credit they could be eligible for, but then the process was a little less clear. So they were advised to go through the CSU application process and register for any subject. Is there any clarity as to which subject correlates with the eligible credits so that I can know which subject to register for? It's a really good question, and we can make sure that that aligns properly. I might get Nikki to follow up with this one tomorrow or later in the week, if that's possible, because again, we just don't want to tell you the wrong information because, you know, we're trying to answer things quickly. But we should be able to tell you what subject that correlates to so that you know exactly what to register for and what not to register for.
Beauty. As you can hear, we're slacking notes to ourselves right now about that. One thing to mention about that is that if you line up the credit before you start, it's a simpler process. So it might be the case, Martin, that yes, you're eligible, but now you have to go through the CSU portal as opposed to when you first apply for your course. We'll just assign the credits as we see them without you having to fill out the forms. Martin, I think, was Martin a scholarship winner? Anyway, hope you're doing well, Martin, if that's you. I vaguely remember that. God, there's so many of you out there. Any more questions? Any more snippets of information? What do you reckon, Shani? Should we call it?
Yeah, so someone has just asked, can a postgraduate student study offline or is it online only? Our courses are online. I'm sure there are offline courses for you to study to. Great, go have fun, but we can't provide those. We wouldn't be very good at it.
Oh, and one thing I love saying is that Chantel, as the long-time education director, makes sure that there are no group assignments in our masters, in this online masters, because first of all, we assume that you are all very good team players, having got as far as you have already. And second, no group assignments, please.
It's very hard to do in an online space when everyone has their own lives and families and jobs and things to do. It's hard enough to do when I was an undergrad.
More triggering. Yes, well, dear. Thank you, Kurt, for your lovely comment about the radio voice. It's also a radio face. Hey, good luck with it, everyone. If you have any questions, get back to us. We'll do some thank yous now, and if anything comes in, we'll get to that. But thank you to Chantel, Nikita, and Hannah for joining us and making sure these things happen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Chantel, for keeping me employed on a very part-time basis. It was always a joy.
All right. It was really good to see all of you here, and hopefully I see some of you as students soon.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Who's host? End it.
I am. I'm looking to do it, but it'll get there.
Ooh.
Need to end before he gets crazier.